Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, and today I'm hanging out with Brian Berg of TPK Games, and we're going to be talking Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, Starfinder, tabletop games. We also want to invite you guys to put your questions in the chat, whatever you want to talk about. Brian is very, very eager to interact.
I told everybody, I want to field some questions and just talk general gaming smack with all of you guys today. So I'll have some conversation, but feel free to chime in anytime.
So one of the things you had brought up was talking about Starfinder and the differences between Pathfinder, as a talking point, which is a pretty good one. We're just getting started into Starfinder and reviewing it. Ted played in a premiere game before it even launched, run by Owen from Paizo.
I love Owen,
which was really cool. So we're doing this really micro breakdown of everything in the book, and that it's kind of how we're also learning Starfinder as well. So we're just going through micro pieces. We're going to break out everything. It's kind of like what we did with 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, and it just makes it more digestible for us because it's a huge freaking book.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess you know me. I actually really love 5th edition D&D. I still love Pathfinder. To me, they're two different game styles: high fantasy, low fantasy, whatever. I play them both, but I do really love 5th edition. And so as I was reading Starfinder, I found a lot of similar, not exactly the same, but similar changes towards a simpler, smoother, faster, more enjoyable playstyle. And so that really endeared me to Starfinder when at first I was like, I don't know. But yeah, I've grown quite fond of it.
I was totally sold on the art, to be honest with you. As soon as I saw the art coming out, I'm like, I want to check this out. Now I did at the same time, I haven't played very much Pathfinder at all, but we spent a ton of time in 3.5. I mean, we played 3.5 from when it came out until 4E came out, pretty much. So,
man, when 3.0 came out and there were feats, I was like, mind blown.
Well, do you remember? Do you remember getting the Dragon magazines with the updates?
Mm-hmm.
And every edition, I've drugged my group in screaming and kicking because I'm always like, "Ooh, the new thing," and they're like, "But we have all these books." I'm like, "Forget those books. There's new books."
Right.
So I was the same way with feats and customizing your character, and then it wasn't until 5th edition came out that made me realize the things that I really missed from AD&D.
Yeah.
And so it's really merged them together. But that being said, so I'm starting to go through the Pathfinder book, and I'm already seeing some streamlining, some changes they've made. like the skills, it's like someone finally figured out we don't have to multiply anymore. We can just say +3.
Yeah.
Genius. So also, someone asked, what is Starfinder? So Starfinder is basically science fantasy. So kind of like a Star Wars game, but built off of the Pathfinder engine. And there's definitely some streamlining they've done in there so far that I can see. There's no more hit dice. No more hit dice. That's gone. It's just you get a set amount of hit points from your race and from your class, which I found that pretty interesting.
It lends itself to a little grittier game, I think. But yeah, pretty cool. And I believe you can kind of recover your hit points a little bit, and it's pretty neat.
Someone's asking questions. So the easiest thing to do, if you have questions, just put GM911 or a question in front of it. So this way, it just makes it a lot easier for us to pick them out. Space Opera RPG is what I think. And that pretty much sums it up.
And although Starfinder has,
I know you're working on products for Starfinder. Have you got a chance to play?
I haven't officially played, but I had a developer copy very early on. And so I was in the know of what the mechanics were going to be like very early. We'll talk about later, but I've already put out stuff for Starfinder, supplemental cards and such, and I'm working on an adventure. But I guess what I was going to say is Starfinder, although it's set in kind of the future of the Pathfinder universe, you're not limited to Pathfinder. You could run any sort of game that you want with the Starfinder engine and make it awesome. Aliens versus Predator, totally doable. You could run your own Star Wars with it, probably. You know, whatever sci-fi, fantasy, opera, space opera, boom, doable.
All right, so you cut out a little bit for me at the end, though. But basically the gist that I got was you can play any kind of space game you want with the rule set. As we go along, too, guys, I'll be picking out the questions and just putting them in our chat inside here. So we will definitely circle back around to them for you guys. What is it? What is the I wish I had my book with me now. the reserve, where you basically lets you have special powers.
In Starfinder?
Yes. A lot of your abilities are now based off of it. What is the
Are you talking about like your resolve points?
Yes, your resolve points. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
So that's, is that something they ported over from Pathfinder, or is that new?
No, that's new. And it's, if you go back to like 3.5 D&D, Unearthed Arcana, they had that optional rules book. And there's so many things that between that and Paizo's, oh gosh, what is it called? Unchained. A lot of those cool things have come back into Starfinder. Maybe changed a little bit, but
so they taking that stuff and kind of made it core.
Yeah. My number one love from the new book is actually the removal of iterative attacks. I always hated that. I felt like it was really clunky and it was just a holdover from the original 3.0 design. And now it's like, okay, what do you want to do? You can take one attack and move, or you can take two attacks, a little bit of a penalty, boom, boom, boom. Your table play should be a lot faster.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I had noticed right away as well. And I can only imagine certain weapons lend themselves to that as well. Depending on what you're using, because you're using guns and stuff, so there's got to be like an auto fire mechanism in there somewhere. Like I said,
I'm sure.
We're going through, from the beginning. I know some of the other guys, Ted and Nate, they've jumped ahead a little bit more, and they've done a couple hangouts on it. But I'm pretty much just going from the beginning. And each week we have quote unquote homework to do, and then we read those sections and then review those sections. So
totally fair.
A little while.
Mm-hmm. I saw somebody ask about starship design or star base design. I know there's companies that are working on supplements for starships and that sort of thing, and I don't know how big and grandiose that will get, but hopefully they will.
Yeah, that was Chris Forensis had asked that. Zareth Gaiman has a question that, like, without actually having read some of those parts, I'm fairly certain it will work. He wants to know, does a priest theme work with a Kasatha Solarian? And I feel like all the themes and all the races can work with pretty much anything.
I agree. I think that's how they were designed. Again, kind of loose and fast, kind of like the backgrounds in 5e D&D. It flavors your character, and they should all just add a little something to your abilities.
Yeah, like one of the things that I really enjoy about the Starfinder book is when you go through the class section, it then has a section where it takes the class and marries it to a theme and tells you what that might look like. And I really enjoy that section for several reasons. One, I love it for the fact that it just gave them an excuse to put like 4 more pieces of really cool art in the book.
Yeah.
But essentially, if you're familiar with 5e and the quick start rules for making a character, literally it's kind of that. It's similar to that. It's a quick start guide, and it's like, hey, you want to play this type of character, use this theme, use it with this class, boom, take these skills, take these powers, and you're set. This way you guys can get right into it.
Yeah.
Here is a non-Starfinder question.
Ooh.
From Kenneth Woodall. A player in my campaign is wanting to make a cleric Eldritch Knight battle mage build. What are some ways he can go about this RP wise? Well, mechanically, it's very simple. I mean, you're just a cleric, maybe war domain, or maybe you're going to flavor it with something else, depending on. It depends on your outlook on how you feel the character builds work, right? Some people are very strict in like, these are professions. This is the thing you do. Where I think our group looks at it as a suite of abilities, and we will put them together in different ways and say it's completely something else, regardless of what the character class says on your character sheet.
Now, are they talking Eldritch Knight, or I'm sorry, 5th edition or Pathfinder?
They are talking 5th edition, is my guess.
Yeah. I think it's cool, and I honestly, I know that there's been this like philosophy of getting away from multi-classing. Horse hockey, man, just, do what you want to do, make the character that you want to do. If you want to have multiple abilities and draw from different classes, by all means, especially if you have a good role-playing concept behind it.
So for now, role-playing wise, how you can handle that character, you see, like, this is an opportunity, I feel, as a GM. You can your player has just possibly introduced a whole order into your game that you can put there, as long as you're open to it. And that's what I would do. I would make this order of warrior priests that actually rely heavily on magic, and you could build it from there. There's so many role-playing avenues that can happen. Now there can be hierarchies for that order. There can be role-playing opportunities, as there's different factions in that order. Now you have quest givers, because if you have an order, someone has to run it and people have to be in charge. What is their agenda? What are they trying to do? Why was the order formed? Like, ask questions, right? And then the role-playing stuff will kind of fill itself out.
Absolutely. Was it Forgotten Realms that had Azuth, and he was like a high god of magic, and then his priests actually used some wizard abilities or could cast some wizard spells? Depending on your setting, there's a nice in also. Maybe that's a more martial variety versus more cleric variety, but there you go.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, depending on how much cleric and how much Eldritch Knight you go, is going to determine things as well. I mean, you could literally go Eldritch Knight and just take the Acolyte background and do the same thing if you wanted to. It's just
I joke all the time about people telling me about their characters, but I'm about to do that. I'm going to tell you about a character concept that I actually wanted to make. I am dying to play in 5th edition a barbarian/druid, because just imagine that wild shape while taking half damage and raging.
We've probably done a video on that. Oh, you know what? It's another one that actually works really well with Barbarian that we kind of like. We didn't come upon it right away, and that's Bard. Because Bardic Inspiration, you can totally do it while you're raging.
We're actually working on something called the Fighter Folio, which is a pretty in-depth look at the fighter class and just a ton of new options, right? One of the archetypes that we're doing is more like a fighter bard, and he's a gladiator. And what he does is he uses charisma-based abilities to allies during combat. Pretty cool. But it's flavored appropriately.
No, it definitely sounds cool. And, there's been Scald. So, matter of fact, Scald used to be like a favorite. I guess there were kits back in AD&D, right?
Oh, yeah. Love them.
Dating ourselves a little bit, but yeah. And like a lot of the things that have come forward in Pathfinder and 5th edition really do come from those things. So you could definitely see, even now, like in like the Unearthed Arcanas, you could see Mike Merles trying to squeeze more AD&D back into the game.
Oh yeah, and I'm okay with that. Take what works. Don't be afraid to do something bold. But at the same time, you know, if you look at 4th edition D&D, it was a very bold departure from what we as consumers were expecting. It's a great game by itself. Take it for what it is. It's a good game, but it wasn't exactly what I think a lot of people wanted. So, yeah.
So LaVoyer has a question.
Sure.
Let's see. Do you feel pigeonholed into being a mechanic or engineer for Starfinder? Will it be the cleric of D&D for the ship repairs and travel? Dun, dun, dun. No, because party roles are bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, you've got all kinds of skills and equipment. I mean, I do think that they've done a good job with Starfinder, allowing every character to have a function, a role, but also their own personality. So I wouldn't feel that you're the ship cleric. That's really good, though. I'm going to make one now just because you said that and test out the waters. That's awesome.
The ship cleric?
Yeah, ship cleric.
I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm fairly sure the Technomancer can probably do some stuff as well.
Yep.
That seems like it would go hand in hand with the ship.
So speaking of all the Starfinder, can I have you share some images of our recently launched Starfinder spell decks?
I can absolutely do that.
Yeah, so we are putting out high-quality poker-sized spell decks for not only Starfinder, but also for Pathfinder. And the first ones out were the Sorcerer and Wizard, but now we also have the Cleric. We've got the specific to Starfinder, we have the Mystic and Technomancer spell decks. And I don't know if I have, there we go. There's a good example. Command, level 1 spell. And that's what they look like, same size. And they come printed in a full deck and shipped in a clear plastic container, so they'll stay safe for you. Very handy, you know, you're playing like Starfinder Society or Pathfinder Society. You'll have all the rules right there at your fingertips. That's probably what I've been up to the most. And as you can see now, this Into the Void, this is an adventure that I might take a moment to talk about. So one of the things that I really wanted to do with a brand new system like Starfinder was write an adventure that was teaching you how to play the game as the game master and the players. So one of the most unique concepts is the players begin the adventure not knowing who they are, who their allies are. They're kind of recovering from a crash, regaining memories. And as you play through each section, you fill out more and more of your character sheet, and all that happens before you really get into the meat of the adventure. So I think it's a really cool concept, and I've had a lot of love and support on it. But it's going to be unique, fun playthrough. I don't think I've ever played through anything like that before.
Does I don't actually remember seeing anything, but does Paizo have an introduction adventure for Starfinder out?
Well, they have an adventure path, and so technically yes. But is it an introductory adventure, like a basic pre-game, thing? No, where this is designed specifically for everyone to learn the game as you play, and kind of I'm hoping that it leads the characters still at first level and on their way to the Pathfinder adventure path. That's kind of my goal.
Yeah, and so they're completely different. Adventure path and adventure modules are different than an introductory adventure. Matter of fact, I'm supposed to be playing in Sunday into an introductory adventure for 5e D&D because that particular GM doesn't think Minds of Foundover did a good job of that. That's supposed that it was a bad adventure, but not a good introduction for new players.
Sure. And see, that's the trick, and I think if you're going to do an introductory adventure, you really have to spell everything out. And I'm going through and I'm finding ways to explain resolve points, and give concrete examples of you using them. It's a really unique product. So I'm behind on it, but it's still slated to come out soon.
It's in the works. So Do you consider yourself more of a sci-fi or more of a fantasy guy?
I'm definitely more of a fantasy guy, and dark fantasy all the way. So that also bleeds over to my fantasy writing, or I'm sorry, my sci-fi writing. I want dark, scary, aliens, man.
You beat me to it. I was about to say aliens. Yeah.
There's not gonna be any football-headed goblins in my adventures. That's just not gonna happen.
I want to address this real quick.
Sure.
So Nasdar69, I'm wondering if you guys have had a chance to take a look at the new Star Trek Adventures RPG from Modifius. I have not, but staff editor Doug, as some of the writers and possibly some other people actually ran like a session 0 for that, I believe, last weekend. So they're going to be playing it. They're not going to be recording it, but I imagine that some of that's going to bleed over to the website. So I would keep my eyes peeled for that.
And I love everything that Mephidius does, so I'm sure it'll be good. Conan.
They use a different mechanic for that, though. Am I remembering correctly? Something like 2d20 or something?
Yep, you use multiple d20s.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to check it out. Every time, like I just had Clint Black on the other day from Savage Worlds, and I'm just like, there's just so many freaking games. I don't have time to play them all.
Right. Have you played Shadow of the Demon Lord? That's another one of my favorites.
I have not. Rob
Schwab is an evil genius, and that if you love 5th edition, you will love Shadow of the Demon Lord. There's definitely some differences, but Shadow of the Demon Lord is a simple to play. It's just a dark themed, good fantasy game that's simple and easy. So you owe it to yourself to try it. And you level after every game session, and there's only 10 levels, so a lot of fun.
Yeah, for a while there, we did have a GM that was willing to learn he was learning new systems no matter what we did, but was willing to run them for us, and that made it super helpful. Like, all right, so if all I have to do is figure out how to make a character or use a pre-gen, and I can show up and play, I'm in. Like, right. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. You just tell me which dice to roll.
Yeah.
People all the time ask us to review different games. I'm like, that's a 300-page book, buddy. That's going to take a little time.
And if you're like me, you've probably got shelves upon shelves of books that you own that you're never going to use, but you bought them because you love them, you're supporting your company, or you say, one day I will probably steal some ideas from this,
Yeah, looking at you, Savage Riffs. So.
That could be a whole discussion some other time. I'm a big fan. Yeah.
Jeff Van Gogh question, Starfinder, what are your first characters going to be? I have an idea for a character, but I still have to read more of the rules to figure out how that's going to work out. What are they? Yasuko? Sako? How do you say the name for the rat people?
Oh, you like those?
I want to play one of those guys, but like as a soldier and kind of play him like a barbarian.
Wow, that'd be fun.
I think so.
I want to do like one of the insectoid races, but play him some kind of bounty hunter or soldier. Yeah.
There's definitely so many cool ways you can go with that. I think Ted played a Solarian, and he was a Vesk.
Which is a super cool concept for like paladins in space.
Yeah. They try to steer away from it when you talk to the guys officially. Like, dude, it's totally just a paladin in space.
Yeah.
So just say it. Come on, guys. We can say it.
But you know what? I like the mystic a lot too, because they're not purely a cleric. They're kind of like a cleric, psychic, something along those lines. Bene Gesserit, that would be another neat option too, is someone to play or run a Dune campaign using the Starfinder rules.
Dune, Babylon 5, Farscape.
So much, yeah.
There is so much fodder out there to bolt that onto. It's insane.
And it's unfortunate because I could probably play in a game every single day and not scratch the surface of all the things I'd like to do.
Jeff Van Gogh, I prefer Starfinder, but Numenera is also very cool. There is a bunch of companies with different OGLs. Have you thought about dabbling into, like Cypher System or Fate?
So yes and no. The way this works is I'm working on this campaign setting, which I think we briefly talked about before. And when it gets published, it's going to be for Pathfinder 5th Edition, Shadow of the Demon Lord, and Savage Worlds, because those are probably, to me, the 4 most accessible game systems that are true to my setting. I haven't messed around with Fate. I don't know a whole lot about it, so shame on me. The Numenera, I think that might be too far out of my realm. Uh-oh.
More work. Fate,
yeah.
Fate would be a little bit easier, but yeah, they're both pretty rules light.
Mm-hmm.
And fun. So, and that's like we always like talk about as Nerdarchy, possibly publishing stuff on our own. And it's like, well, which systems do you publish for? Because we love playing so much. I think Mutants and Masterminds might have an OGL as well. That's another D20 based system, but
I think so.
It's very different than, say, playing D&D or Pathfinder, especially with the 3rd edition iteration, because they've gone even further afield from. But it's made it a lot better, in my opinion, because really, like in 3rd edition Mutants and Mastermind, you can see Steve Kenson's love of Marvel Phase Rip coming through. I don't know if you've ever played that at all.
I have not. Honestly, aside from Rifts, I haven't done a whole lot of sci-fi stuff. I played some of the old D6 Star Wars back in the day, But my love is definitely, fantasy. Ironically, some folks have asked us, well, hold on. You were talking about systems, and just to throw this out there, all of our adventures now that we publish are dual-statted for 5e and Pathfinder.
Okay.
So I know a lot of people are very happy about that because gamers can be quite fickle. Who knew? And so what you love one day might not be what you love in a month. So
that is definitely true. Alexander asked, how does Starfinder stack up against Numenera? They don't. Like, they're completely different systems. Numenera they're both science fantasy, but they're both very different forms of science fantasy, where Numenera is almost like post-apocalyptic without quite as much desperation as some other settings. And Starfinder, also science fantasy, but is very more like Star Wars. And Numenera doesn't actually have magic, to my knowledge. It has tech that people treat like magic. And it's the idea that like there's been all these different ages that have built upon each other, and each one kind of like falls, and then they have to like start over, but there's all these artifacts left over. And then if you're talking about the systems themselves, Starfinder is still going to be a rules heavy, crunchy system, and Numenera is going to be very rules light. So it just depends on what kind of game you like.
Absolutely. And I really like Starfinder because it's less crunchy and less rules intensive, but you still have a lot of options. And so for those people who really like character options, man, it's good, and it's going to be a fun game. So.
Yeah, I can't wait to actually get to play it. And we're also got some things in the works for Starfinder, so hopefully that'll unfold soon, guys, so that you'll actually be able to see it in play as well. Nice. But that we still have that on the back burner simmering a little bit. Maybe in another week or two we'll be able to actually make some official announcements on that, which would be fun. Oh, so. The Gemincer, I don't know how you say that. There's way too many consonants and not enough vowels. How do you feel about Starfinder versus Star Wars FFG in terms of complexity? They are probably, I think it's about equal. Like, they're both very rules heavy, very crunchy systems. Both, I've played Star Wars. It's a lot of fun. Once you whether you use an app for it or just from doing it, you're gonna have to get good at dice sorting because they use the narrative dice, but it actually goes fairly quick. They just they're just two different approaches to the same style of game, and they're both rules heavy. So if you like one, there's a good possibility you'll like the other.
And see, I haven't played that, but everyone whom I've spoken to who has played it really enjoyed it. And although they felt intimidated by the dice system at first, they learned to love it. So,
yeah, you know, it really changes the game and adds these extra dimensions for, especially if you have a really creative GM who can interpret, who enjoys interpreting the dice. And I feel like the people that don't like it and hate it because of custom dice, none of them have ever played it or even given it a chance. But it's funny too, because I've seen people who are like, I don't like rules heavy games anymore, but they're willing to play it because of Star Wars. And I'm like, you don't get much rules heavier. I mean, you have ability trees, you have skills, you know, there's all kinds of things. Like the amount of source material they've got out for that game already is pretty, that's intimidating. That part's impressive. That's a stack of books you could hide behind.
And see, you know, I kind of like the less is more philosophy these days, because to be fair, Paizo is putting out so much content so quickly for even just for Pathfinder that I don't know what they've done in the last 3 months, you know, and I know a lot of people don't buy every single thing anymore because they already have so much content. Whereas I know 5th edition is probably completely opposite, where people are just dying for content and they're very slowly releasing it, you know. So we'll see what they do with Starfinder.
So Norcal Bowhunter has a question. As a DM, I'm looking into running a Starfinder for my group. They suggest going to a more tried and true games like Spelljammer or Rifts. What are the selling points to this game over the others? Well, one, Rifts. But so Rifts is not a game to play if you want any kind of balance in your game. You know, it's very random and if you can have
Palladium Rifts, yes.
Yeah. You could literally have a guy in a mech and then literally have a guy that's a hobo. So you're all over the place. So I would throw that one out. Maybe look at Savage Rifts if that's an option.
I'm a big fan of Savage Rifts, actually. They did a fantastic job of balance, ease of play, and yet you still capture the flavor.
And as far as going to Spelljammer, yeah, if you're going to run it in 5e, sure, but I can't see. I just can't go backwards. I'm struggling with going backwards in editions. I might do a pickup game, but I don't think I would want to play that campaign because, as games move forward, there tends to be innovations and they tend to get better.
Go ahead.
So as far as selling ports for Starfinder, I mean, that's pretty tried and true. I mean, it's based off of Pathfinder, which has been around for quite a while now. And they are streamlining some of the rules. And then it's just going to come down to things like, well, how rules heavy do you want your game to be?
Right. Yeah, I would totally do either of those two systems, 5e or Starfinder. Both are going to give you what you want. And it really comes down to which system you're comfortable with. And honestly, Starfinder is easier than Pathfinder. So I think they're both winners. And who doesn't love Spelljammer? I loved it back in the day. You don't have to use all the rules that are in Starfinder to do a Spelljammer game. You could still do like kind of a high fantasy in space with a few rules tweaks. So both of those settings or systems would be awesome.
And also, Do Stuffs brings up a really good point too. If you're talking about Spelljammer, that is just fantasy set in space. It is not. It's not science fantasy. It's not science fiction at all.
Yep.
So if you want laser blasters and alien races, Starfinder is going to be a better game. From what I'm looking at so far, it's put together really well. I'm really enjoying the story elements of it. And the theme system is really cool. So, but at the end of the day, it's whatever you guys are going to enjoy playing. If they're familiar with Pathfinder, then they're going to have no problems picking up Starfinder and running with that. And even if they're not, it's not super complex. And it seems like there's been some streamlining.
Well, I really love in Starfinder how they took away a lot of the bonuses and combined them into other bonuses. And so armor classes to me seem a little bit lower. The ridiculous amount of 72 different types of bonuses has been condensed. So I think if you're going to do any kind of sci-fi game, you're going to really enjoy Starfinder. Also, it sold out in half a day at Gen Con. So Thursday, a little afternoon, Starfinder was done, gone. Every copy.
Yeah, it did not take long at all.
Right.
I saw those lines. I saw those lines, and I was so happy to know that my copy was going to be sitting and waiting for me at home because I had pre-ordered it. So we are way more than halfway through now, so we might as well jump into the roll call, guys, and see where everyone is hailing from today. So Comic Book University. We're actually playing a Marvel Phase Rip game, which is literally the reason I asked because I believe you're an old school gamer and been around for a little while, and that was definitely one of the ones we played it back in the 80s. And it's a dead game now, but we actually just ran, I think, like 12 sessions of it.
Very cool.
The channel. We actually played. We played a game of. The game started out as us in a live chat getting sucked into the Marvel universe, and then we had to like discover our powers and the referee or the judge for the game. They're called judges. Professor Bell runs the Comic Book University YouTube channel. A lot of good stuff over there. So he did a great job running that for us. And awesome. I was going to talk about the villain, but just in case people want to go and check it out, I won't throw any spoilers out. So we got Do Stuff Z, Denmark signing in, Todd, Dallas, Houston with Kelsey, Comic Book University, Doomstad, Latveria. I'm a little skeptical. I don't believe Victor would let outside influences in. White Rabbit is in Geneva, New York. We got Patrick in Sweden, Lincoln in Sweden. Adam is in Indianapolis. We got Cannibal Loco in Argentina. We've got Lopez Island, Washington with AJ. Salt Lake City, Utah with Nebeg. Regilio's in Utah. We've got Central Florida in the house with Red Jackal. Jeff Van Gogh is in Luxembourg.
Nice.
We've got Berlin, Germany in the house with Drudenfuzz. Zareth Gaming is in Radizio. Wales with True Mate. Indiana with Lord Irish.
That's great to see all the international folks.
Yeah, we get a lot of them. John is in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Lincoln, I've recently driven through you guys.
Woohoo!
Saw Iron Maiden there just not too long ago.
Nice. Scorched Center is in Sacramento, California. Acolyte 14 is in Boston. Jason Darby is in Las Vegas. And that's what we got for today. So again, yeah, we got a bunch of people coming in from all over the place, which is always a lot of fun. And who knows, we might have had more people tuning in, but they might be getting wiped out by a hurricane right now, unfortunately.
I know.
Freaking mess.
And then there was an earthquake in Mexico today, like an 8 something. So it's just tragic. So I guess the next thing I really wanted to talk about was, as I happen to be a con goer, and I sell, the TPK Games stuff, and I carry some other Pathfinder and D&D stuff, right? I go to lots of conventions. So do you recall seeing that arena that I gave you an image of? Can you put that up on the screen for a bit?
I absolutely can.
So I recently saw this at Gen Con and said, I have to have one. There you go. So this was actually one of the old Playmobil Roman gladiator arenas. And first of all, I want to know why I didn't have one when I was a kid. And now that I'm a grown-up, I'm having one. So I bought it from Germany, and it's on its way now. But I'm going to repurpose it. I'm going to repaint it to be black. And it is going to be a focal point in our campaign setting. And so it's going to be run by lawful evil orcs who worship this god of strength and tyranny. And so I'm going to take it to conventions and allow people to actually play, hopefully almost nonstop during the convention hours. And we will just shed lots of blood and have a ton of fun. So if you're going to any of the Midwest conventions, be on the lookout for that. It'll be repainted black and run by the TPK Games staff. But it should be a ton of fun.
So is the idea it's not necessarily going to be an adventure per se, it's just going to be arena combat?
Yes, it's gladiatorial combat. And it'll showcase a lot of the races and some of the cool new stuff in our campaign setting, but it'll ultimately be just for fun, short sessions, you know, because who wouldn't want to play with that? I mean, really, we're all big kids.
We had briefly toyed around with the idea of maybe doing like a Nerdarchy fight club, and you know, something along that lines, and having rasters and tournaments. But you know, we have tons of ideas. It's just too many ideas to bring to life at one time. But perhaps someday will happen.
I share your pain, sir.
I know. Actually, one of the new things I've been thinking about, I would love to do a Nerdarchy cafe / gaming store. And then we can have our nerd mecca. So all you guys who follow us on the internet, you can have a place to pilgrimage to.
That'd be awesome.
It'd be a lot easier than trying to like track you guys all down at the different conventions.
Well,
so speaking of conventions, you know, we had missed each other at Gen Con, and
sadly
you were kind of on my list of people. I was like, well, I didn't get to hang out with this person at Gen Con, so perhaps I could just have them on the show again. How was your Gen Con?
Gen Con was great. You know, on one hand, Gen Con has become this huge, multi-headed hydra of a convention, but it's still Gen Con. You know, like it still takes your breath away to walk into that dealer hall on that first day and go, oh my God, it is so ginormous. I posted some pictures on my Facebook page, which you should follow me on Facebook, by the way, Total Party Kill Games or Brian Berg.
Speaking of, in the description, there are links to places to find you: Twitter, Facebook, the website.
Awesome. Yeah, and we completely redesigned our website, so it's much cooler than it used to be. Hopefully you have totalpartykill.games.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, awesome. But yeah, I shared some picture on Facebook shortly after Gen Con, and you could see this just sea of people funneling into the dealer hall. And although that's neat to see, what it told me is that our hobby is bigger and stronger than ever before. And you know, there's so much nerd culture these days. I almost hesitate to say that there's a difference between nerd culture and pop culture, because the two are almost synonymous today. And that's bringing more and more people into things like Gen Con and getting them exposed to more and more things like role-playing games. And while RPGs are totally my passion, you know, I still make card games. I still play board games. I'll play video games. I play Elder Scrolls a lot with my wife. But it's awesome to see more people coming into the fold. And so the growth of something like Gen Con is not a bad thing per se. It just needs to be managed, you know, better due to the huge throng of people.
Well, it's, you know, Gen Con 50 was the first one to sell out, so that in itself is pretty impressive. Absolutely,
and they did a good job because you could actually walk in the dealer hall, whereas the year previous I was, you know, I'm a big, tall guy, and I was running into people, and I'm like, come on, you know, have a little courtesy. It was just a sea of humans.
That part can be tough. I mean, you're going to get people just stopping in the middle. Like, come on, just move over to the side a little bit, buddy. But
and that's there's also conventions like Gamehole Con. Alex Kammer runs that along with a bunch of his friends, and they do an outstanding job. It's in Madison, Wisconsin, and it gets all the old school TSR folks there, awesome number of celebrities, and they also had True Dungeon there last year. So it's poised to be the next Gen Con but in Wisconsin where it should be. So very cool. You know, if you get the opportunity, Nerdarchy guys, you should go. Actually, everyone should go.
I know. I'm trying to figure out what my schedule is going to look like for next year. I know there's the other guys from a collab effort we recently got involved with is Savor Dice, and those guys want to do PAX South because a couple of them happen to be in Texas, and you know, a couple of them are in Texas. One of the guys is originally from Texas, but I'm like, man, that looks really expensive.
Yeah.
You know, traveling to the other side of the country and staying there for 4 or 5 days.
Right.
And so I hear of all the PAX though. PAX South is the most RPG friendly. Although I believe that's about to change, hopefully. So with PAX Unplugged.
Yeah, I need to go. But you know what? I honestly foresee Gen Con splitting and hopefully doing like 2 or 3 regional Gen Cons at some point. And I think that'd be a great thing because kind of reduce some of the stress on indie and also allow more people to go to Gen Con because unless you're flying out, it's still kind of limited to the Midwest.
I don't know. I think one of the obstacles to that might be like I heard like Gen Con has got like a 10-year lease there. So like in order to split up, I think it'd probably it would shrink a little.
Absolutely.
But I don't know what like the terms of their lease are, may not really allow for that.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know the business angle of that at all, but I'm hoping that they do because more people getting to attend a Gen Con would be great and less of all the fighting, the hotel, warfare. Like there were jokes on Facebook about the Hunger Games hotel roulette, It's rough.
I kind of envision like a con grows to a certain level and then they do another one more so than the other way around. Like, hey, let's spread this out and get be in more regions. My guess is it's actually more economically driven than convenience driven.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And they like PAX. I just keep adding more and more of them. What is there, like 5 or 6 of them now?
Could be, yeah.
I've lost count because you have East and West, you have South, you have Unplugged now, and there's a good possibility I'm missing 1 or 2.
Right.
So yeah. This year is going to be tough figuring out the con schedule and how we actually want to do cons for going forward as Nerdarchy. Like it's a little trickier for us because we don't sell products per se.
We'll come to a convention that I'm at sometime and we'll game, we'll do some stuff at the booth. That'd be a lot of fun. Maybe do some live stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. But and obviously, speaking of PAX Unplugged, that's local to us, so all of Nerdarchy is going to be at that one. And that's actually been the other struggle for us, too. It's like we generally can't afford to send all of us to a convention.
Sure.
So, both Nate and Ted still have their day gigs, so that leaves me going, which it's great for me, but it kind of stinks for the fans and for the other guys is because they kind of get shortchanged. They're always having to figure out, well, how much vacation time do I actually have? Where can I take it? And should I spend some of that vacation time with my family?
That's a decision you have to make, sir.
Yeah. So that is some of those are definitely some of the challenges, and that's actually why I didn't try doing Dragon Con this year. I was like, I think I want to stay married, so I don't think I can squeeze another convention in.
Right. And that convention, oh my gosh, what a zoo that probably is. I've actually never been.
I have not either. I have friends that make a pilgrimage every year. So it's on the list.
Now, this year at Gen Con, I played precisely 1 game, which is crazy. But you know what? It was a good one. I played the Spartacus board game.
Okay.
Happens to be one of my favorites. So we were all socializing downtown at Indy, you know, and at some point during the craziness, all the publishers, we all get together and hang out and talk business and just kind of let loose and say hi to each other. Well, we had a few drinks and wandered off to some smoking lounge, and we were playing the Spartacus board game. Now, it's not a product plug. I don't own it or anything. It's just a great game. And if you remember the TV series, this game actually does a very good job of capturing the dirtiness, the rotten, the intrigue-filled, parts of the TV series. So tons of fun. And we had just a great time. We were like in tears laughing so hard because some of the cards are very adult-oriented. I won't repeat them, but check it out. These days, you can get that game for cheap, probably for clearance, less than $30.
I actually did. I got in actually 3 games at Gen Con. I ran a 5e game, like a pickup game for some of the people that I've known online, but finally got to meet in person. So that was cool. I played in Perdition over at the Monte Cook Games booth. Nice. We got a demo of that, and then we also, I actually brought my copy of Laser Riders, which I kicked the backs. I backed that Kickstarter for friends of ours. Actually, are the designers for that. And turns out they're at Gen Con too for Greater Than Games, which I believe is the publisher for that one. So that was cool. So we got to play a game of that. So I one-upped you by 2.
But how funny is it that we went to Gen Con and played like just a tiny amount of games? You know, it's a big social event, and I always say this, but gamers are my family, you know, and so a lot of big conventions are like family reunions to me, seeing all my gaming buddies and friends. And so it's really hard to coordinate games, but it's much easier to sit around and have a beer and socialize with everybody. So
the chat is kind of funny. Con lives before wives. Con first, family second.
Yeah,
there must be a bunch of single people saying that.
Now, see, I'm very lucky because my wife is totally supportive and lets me do all this crazy stuff. So
yeah, I make out fairly well in that department, but I feel like there's a limit somewheres.
I'm sure.
I'm not trying to figure out where that was, because you know, we did. Well, I've got three cons that I'm hitting this year, and they're all like fairly close. They're all fairly close together with Origins, Gen Con, and Unplugged. We also did the LA trip for Geek and Sundry. So, and that was all. So that was all from like June to November. So
that had to be a lot of fun.
It was. Now the LA trip, I cheated a little bit by bringing my wife with me.
Cool.
So, yeah, like what's the point of going places and doing cool things if you don't do it with the people you love?
That's right.
Also in January we did the comic book cruise. Again, I brought my whole family with me on that as well. So good stuff.
I keep wanting to take my son to a lot of these conventions. I take him to some of the smaller ones. He's 14, so it's not really a problem, but you know, Gen Con would be a bit much. Maybe not.
I brought my son to Gen Con. He's 16. Yeah. So, I mean, hey, next year, 15 or the year after 16, that's not bad. Like, my son's as big as me. I'm like, well, I don't think he's going to get kidnapped. So, right. It would take like 3 guys to pick him up and carry him out. And that was actually a lot of fun. And, you know, some of the other guys that we were hanging out with, they were calling him Nerdarchy Jr.
Nice.
And actually, he plays in some of our games. The Perdition game, he was so excited with that one. He's like, I don't care what character I am. I just want to, because the idea is like you're back in prehistoric times and you're time travelers, but you're stuck there. So you have all this tech, and you also have dinosaurs. So each player gets a dinosaur companion.
No, that's pretty cool.
And he's like, I don't care which one I am. I just want to be the one with the Ankylosaurus. And so, and there was one. So he got the one he wanted. And then the GM's like, okay, pass your dinosaur to the person to the left.
Oh.
So it's your dinosaur, but the other person role plays it.
Oh, I see. Okay. Very cool. Yeah.
it was kind of a cool mechanic, and it was fun. And whenever you wanted your dinosaur to do something, you had to make a check to convince it to do what you wanted anyway.
That seems legit.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. So bringing my son to the conventions has been great. I think I'll have to talk to him and see if he wants to do PAX Unplugged with us as well. But it is tricky. Like, I was concerned about ruining his convention experience because, we go there to work just as much as to play.
And that's my problem. Yeah.
It's brutal, especially on my liver. Your day starts like 8, 9 in the morning and ends at like 3 in the morning.
Yep. There's some rough days.
Oh yeah, and I'm an old man now, so I can't hang the way I used to.
Yep.
And then on top of that, like, usually I still have the Nerdarchy work to do in addition to being at the con. So a lot of times I get back to the room at like anywhere from 2 to 3. And then I'm like doing stuff for Nerdarchy for another hour before I can even go to bed. I was just looking at my computer and I just want to go to bed. I just want to throw this thing across the room.
But you know what? You're doing what you love, and you're doing it for the fans. So everybody who's watching, hopefully you see the sacrifices this guy is making for you all. That's love.
Well, we do what we got to do. You got to keep the machine moving. And you know what that is? It like I quit my job doing heavy construction, but I don't work any less.
Right.
It's like it's a 365-day a year job.
Absolutely.
So
I've always got the laptop sitting on my lap, sitting on the couch, working while we're watching TV or whatever. It's what you got to do.
But the nice thing is, like, during the summertime, me and my son started going to the gym together, and like, he was home from school, so I was able to get that in during the day, or whatever, or maybe you need to do things, and you make your own schedule so you can do them. Now you might have to work late the night before or work later that night, but
right. You're flexible.
Make it happen. So
sounds good. We
are right before the hour mark. Anything you want to leave the folks with?
Well, I say definitely go check out our new cards. We are continuing to put out cards for every class, and they're gorgeous. They're really nice cards. I spent a lot of time researching how to develop these and make them so they're high quality and look nice. So check those out. We got all the classes covered as we're going through the core books initially. Eventually, we're going to do the supplemental books and even some different third-party Pathfinder compatible stuff. I've had a lot of clamor for us to do 5th edition cards as well, and I'm looking into that because it seems like Gale Force 9 can never keep theirs in stock. So, I know that for those of you who are fans of Psionics and the martial powers from Dreamscarred Press, we recently made a deal with them to develop their cards as well. So Psionics will be coming along with the martial powers. So a lot of cool stuff on the horizon.
Awesome. Yeah, I love the cards, but I always forget to use them. Like, when they came out, I that was one of the things I had gotten for Christmas was all the spell cards.
Sure.
And now they're like scattered around my house.
Mm-hmm. Well, these ones are actually poker sized, so they're a little more convenient, and I've been using them even to manage my spell slots. So super cool.
How do you use them to manage your spell slots?
Well, if you have, you can just put all the cards in that you have memorized for a day, if you're talking 5th edition. But with Pathfinder, you actually have slots, right?
Yeah.
So I have like 3 first level, 2 second level, 1 third level. You can actually put the cards down that you have memorized. So there's no way you're going to forget, and then you're going to cast your spell. Boom! Now I've got the rules right at my fingertips. So very helpful. Then you turn them over when they're spent, whatever.
Oh, also, guys, if you guys like the hit die optional rules that we've kind of been putting out as a video series, Brian is actually the one that inspired that. He's got a whole supplement for that whole product for that. And I believe we actually did a review over on the website as well. So you guys can go check that out. So we've been kind of playing with a video series where we just, going through each class and coming up with some ideas. They may even overlap yours. I'm not entirely sure.
Sure.
But,
that book was designed specifically to inspire.
And it has done that, has inspired us for sure. And I do remember reading Megan's review, and she's like, these are great. Don't use them all at once.
Right. Yeah, optional rules. Yep. But
Yeah.
no, that's great. That's awesome to hear. I really love 5th edition, and hopefully, it shows in our products.
So I want to thank you for coming on, Brian. I want to thank everyone for hanging out in the chat today. And until next time, guys, stay nerdy.